bad movie Beatdown. Now today we're looking at a movie so epic, so sweeping, so bloody long that it takes more than one episode to review it. I am of course talking about the third instalment of the Pirates of the Caribbean saga, At World's End. Back in 2003, no one dreamed that the original Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, was ever going to be as successful as it was. I mean, it was a movie based off of a theme park ride from the director of Mouse Hunt. How good was it gonna be? But when it was released, it more than surpassed the expectations of many viewers, and no one would have believed that Johnny Depp's portrayal of Captain Jack Sparrow would have landed him an Oscar nomination. Me? I liked it, I just thought it was a little bit too long, which in retrospect is probably ironic. In fact, the first movie was so successful that Disney greenlit 2 sequels to the movie, which would be a 2-part tale in the vein of the Star Wars and Back to the Future sequels. Both of these movies were shot back to back with each other for release in 2 consecutive summers. 2006's Dead Man's Chest upped the ante on its predecessor in the usual sequel fashion by being bigger, louder and more over the top than before. However, there was a feeling that a number of problems were beginning to creep in. The forced strictly for kids humour, the idolisation of Jack Sparrow, and the romance between Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann, which began to get irritating as it ate up more screen time. These problems came to a head in the 2007 sequel, At World's End, which was eagerly anticipated at time of release. This is despite the fact that the film had started shooting without a completed script. And boy does that show in the finished result. Due to the nature of the film, I will have to give you a recap of Dead Man's Chest so you can keep up with the plot. 13 years ago, Jack Sparrow made a deal with Davy Jones to control the Black Pearl in exchange for his soul. Even though amusingly Barbossa made that a sucky deal, time's up. And Davy has come for Jack's debt. Jack is also pursued by the East India Trading Company, led by Lord Beckett, who arrest Will and Elizabeth on the eve of their wedding. They send Will after Jack to get his compass, which points to whatever you desire most. Jack believes that the only way he can settle his debt is by stealing Davy Jones's heart, locked away in a chest after he cut it out after being scorned by a lover. He who controls Jones' heart controls Jones. Unfortunately, Will also wants the heart because his father, Bootstrap, is one of the cursed crew members on Davy's ship, the Flying Dutchman. Ultimately, Norrington, a disgraced naval officer, steals the heart from under their noses and hands it to Beckett, placing Jones under the control of the anti-pirate East India Trading Company. Now without anything to bargain with, Sparrow and the Black Pearl are attacked by Davy Jones's monstrous Kraken, leading to the film's controversial climax.
It's after you, not the ship. This is the only way, don't you see? I'm not sorry.
In the context of the story, this is a necessary action, since only Jack is cursed, and if he came with them, the Kraken would kill them all. Unfortunately, Keira Knightley makes it seem much more personal than it really should be, and really, her performance should be much more sympathetic in this scene. As the result of Elizabeth's actions, Jack goes down with the Black Pearl as the Kraken attacks. Dead Man's Chest closes with the crew of the Black Pearl agreeing to voyage to Davy Jones's locker, with the only person who knows the way, the newly resurrected Barbossa. So how do they resolve these plot strands? In the clunkiest, most confusing way possible. The current Walt Disney logo, with its beautiful visuals and sweeping theme, this really gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling of nostalgia. So the actual film begins with, "No, you're not."
Right to assembly. Suspended.
Oh god, you're doing this. You're doing it in a Disney movie. The film opens with the East India Trading Company hanging pirates. Jesus H. Christ, 2 minutes into the movie and less than a minute after the Disney logo, we are treated the biggest tonal shift in film history as we get grisly images of corpses and hanging. Hello, there are kids watching! You're traumatising them before the title has even appeared. And then, just to really hammer the upset home, the sequence concludes with a child, you know, the film's target demographic, getting hung for piracy. What on earth are they doing? This is a profoundly misjudged way to open the film, and worse still, it's never mentioned again. We move to Singapore. Elizabeth, played by Keira Knightley, and Barbossa, played by Geoffrey Rush, are here to see Sao Feng, new to this instalment, played by Chow Fat. But first they are checked for weapons.
He moved.
Oh, the wonderful family-friendly magic of Disney! Underneath Feng's baths, the crew of the Black Pearl sneak into the steam room. Barbossa and Elizabeth need Feng's navigational charts so they can go to the other side and into Davy Jones's locker. Willard tried to steal them, but he got caught. The pirate lords, which Feng is one of, are gathering together to determine what to do about the situation with the East India Trading Company.
Now that rule is being challenged by Lord Cutler Beckett.
Against the East India Trading Company.
Innuendo!
Jack Sparrow holds one of the 9 pieces of 8. He failed to pass it along to a successor before he died, so we must go and get him back.
Until he does to everyone who died before appointing a successor, it seems like quite a risky expense. Oh right, it's a lazy reason for getting Jack Sparrow back. At that point, the British Navy, controlled by the East India Trading Company, burst in, showing the film's nasty, cold-blooded streak. A pair of twins are both killed off by henchman Mercer. Because headshots are definitely something you need in a film aimed at children. Will makes a deal with Feng so that he can control the Black Pearl and get his father back, which gives the Black Pearl crew a ship and Feng's crew too. So they set sail for Davy Jones's locker. Wait, if they didn't have a ship, how did they get to Singapore? I highly doubt they swam there.
Why don't that Obey woman just bring Jack back the same way she brought back Barbossa?
Because Barbossa was only dead. Jack Sparrow is taken, body and soul, to a place not of death, but punishment, stretching on forever. That's what awaits at Davy Jones' locker.
So Davy Jones's locker is an actual place? And if you're in the locker, you're not actually dead? You know these answers? They're raising more questions. On the Endeavour, the East India Trading Company's ship, Beckett and Mercer talk about matters.
Fetch the chest.
And the governor, he's been asking questions about the heart.
Does he know? Then perhaps his usefulness has run its course.
Oh no! We've run out of things to do with Jonathan Pryce! Let's just kill him, no one will notice. Bill Nighy's Davy Jones, under Beckett's command, is destroying ships without leaving people to interrogate, forcing Beckett to put Jones's heart on the Flying Dutchman under armed guard.
The Dutchman sails as its captain commands.
And its captain is to sail it as commanded.
I would have thought you learned that when I ordered you to kill your pet.
So the Kraken, one of the most dominating forces of the previous movie, gets killed off between movies with very little fanfare. What a cheap, lazy cop-out. And what a disappointment to those who wanted to see how the Black Pearl crew would defeat it. Back with the crew of the Pearl, they plunge over a waterfall, sending them into Davy Jones's locker. It's here at the 30-minute mark do we finally see Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow.
My peanut.
But not just one Jack Sparrow, dozens of Jack Sparrows. There's even a chicken Jack and a Jack that likes to shag goats. It really seems like they're putting that adage can't have too much of a good thing to the test. Oh, and the peanut thing is a weird running gag throughout the movie. Why has Jack developed a sudden taste for peanuts? I don't have a bloody clue. These other Jacks, of course, are all imaginary because he's gone crazy in the barren landscape. And this is where the film begins to lose me. This sequence goes on for 7 solid minutes and it kills the pacing, slow already, stone dead. Secondly, it shows how lazy the writers are. The Black Pearl, destroyed at the conclusion of the previous film, is back because it can. In fact, how is Jack even here? He was eaten by the Kraken. Surely he's inside its digestive system. Did the Kraken shit him into the locker? None of this makes any sense, and it's clear the writers have no idea what they're doing. A bunch of crabs that look like stones, under the command of Naomie Harris's Tia Dharma, bring back Jack and the Pearl to the rest of the crew. Not content with 7 minutes of flailing to himself, Jack Sparrow gets a grand entrance to boot. If this movie was any more excited about Jack Sparrow's reappearance, it would have ejaculated onto the audience. Jack is informed of the current situation, whilst also letting slip Elizabeth's big secret. This is a good time to talk about the comic relief, whilst not much is happening. This movie has loads of comic relief characters. In fact, most of the crew of the Black Pearl are comic relief. There's Barbossa's monkey Jack, Mute Cotton and his parrot, Pintel and Mackenzie Crook's Raggedy, Little Person Marty, incompetent naval guards from the first film. Even Gibbs is pretty much reduced to comic relief in the cast. The problem is that the movie was already loaded with characters, so having so many comic relief members isn't helping matters. But the other big problem is that they bring shifts in tone. Apparently all this bleak violence and death is fine for children as long as we have a monkey firing a rocket. All of this comic relief works in the more light-hearted Curse of the Black Pearl, but here it annoys, distracts and makes the film even longer. You could jettison half of this stuff and the film would be better for it. Speaking of death, the Pearl comes across dead souls passing into the afterlife. One of these is Elizabeth's father, the governor, who wasn't even afforded the luxury of an on-screen death.
There was this chest, you see, and a heart. I learned that if you stab the heart, yours must take its place, and you will sail the seas for eternity. Dutchman must have a captain.
I died for your exposition.
Take the line!
I can't, my dear. The writers gave me nothing to do. Of course, Jack likes the idea of becoming immortal by becoming the captain of the Dutchman, and I hope you like the multiple Jack Sparrows because he has an angel-devil discussion with versions of himself. Okay, one Jack Sparrow is more than enough, thank you very much. Jack realises that to get back to the real world they have to rock the ship upside down at sundown, which they do. Soon after they're back in the world of the living, Sao Feng just happens to be nearby. Feng also brings the Endeavour, which he hands Jack over to and double-crosses Will, but the Navy take control of the Pearl, double-crossing Feng. And whilst this is going on, Jack makes a deal with Beckett to make sure he doesn't get handed over to Jones. This is a pirate movie, the backstabbing is meant to come from the swords. But Barbossa reveals that the pirates still have an ace up their sleeves, the god Calypso in human form. Feng believes that Elizabeth is Calypso and takes her in exchange for betraying the British Navy. All these deals and motivations are hard to keep track of, and when they're so willing to betray each other, why should I sympathise with any of them? Feng sails away and Jack swings over to the Black Pearl whilst the Endeavour is being attacked. That night, Sao Feng tries to seduce Elizabeth.
I offer simply my desire.
And if I should choose not,
Then I will take your fury.
You know, attempting to rape someone who you think might be a god might not be a wise move, numbnuts. But since this is a Disney movie, Feng gets swiftly interrupted by a cannonball by the Flying Dutchman. Feng is mortally wounded.
You are captain now.
Consider us square over that rape thing. Ugh. And with that, Feng dies. So you get Chow Yun-fat, one of Asia's biggest action stars, and he does virtually nothing. Even in the one action scene he was in, he spent most of it running away. Like much of this movie, what a waste of potential. Meanwhile, Will has been sending a breadcrumb trail of corpses to attract Beckett to Shipwreck Cove, where the pirates will meet. In other words, Will is completely happy with the slaughter of the other pirates as long as he gets dear old Dad. Remember when he was the clean-cut hero in the first? Now he betrays everyone first chance he gets. What a dick. Jack, having also aligned with Beckett, gives Will his compass and knocks him overboard to hand to Beckett, so he can be led to Shipwreck Cove. You know what I said about Will a couple of seconds ago? Same thing here. Norrington encounters Elizabeth, pleased to see that she is still alive, but unaware of her father's death. Locked in the Dutchman's brig, she encounters Will's father, Bootstrap, played by Stellan Skarsgård, who is becoming increasingly unstable as he becomes more and more part of the ship. Norrington frees Elizabeth and Feng's crew, helping them back to their ship. However, the crazed Bootstrap spots them, and Norrington sacrifices himself to save the others. Bye, Jack Davenport! You can have a nice spot next to Jonathan Pryce in the afterlife. We've now got to the middle of the movie, and this brings me right back to when I saw it on theatrical release. Thoroughly bored. I mean, these are pirates. More fighting, less talking. For an action movie, this has been dreadfully light on action. Where's the fun? The adventure? If I'm bored, how bored do you think the kids are? The Black Pearl finally arrives at Shipwreck Cove.
I do not renege on a bargain once struck, but we agreed on ends only. The means are mine to decide.
Do not forget it was by my power you returned from the dead. Or what it mean if you feel me.
Don't you forget why you had to bring me back. It took 9 pirate lords to bind you, Calypso. And it'll take no less than 9 to set you free.
Again, why did they have to bring back Barbossa when they have a council that could appoint a new lord? As you might have guessed, Tiadama is the human embodiment of Calypso, who was in love with Davy Jones before it fell apart rather nastily, as you can see by Squidface here. Will is brought aboard the Endeavour and reveals that Jack is alive and that Calypso is going to be released, neither of which Davy Jones is too pleased about. So the pirate lords meet.
Present now your pieces of 8, my fellow captains.
Those aren't pieces of 8. They're just pieces of junk.
Aye, the original plan was to use 9 pieces of 8 to bind Calypso, but when the first court met, the brethren were to a 1. Skint broke.
So change the name.
To 9 pieces of whatever we happened to have in our pockets at the time. Oh yes, that sounds very piratey.
Or, I don't know, pieces of 9? I mean, you're not naming it after the piece of 8, so why keep the clumsome name? Oh right, a silly gag. Barbossa proposes that they free Calypso, which causes our stereotype pirate lords to break into a fight.
This is madness.
This is politics.
Ha 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 ha. I hate this scene, I really do. Again, we're holding up the plot for an extended scene of talking. Jesus, I don't think I've ever seen pirates talk this much. And it goes on and on for 10 minutes or so. Seriously, where is the action? There has been an action scene for nearly 40 minutes and the plot is so dull I'm nearly falling asleep. Now I know what you're thinking, the lack of action is build-up. I get that, except the story and characters aren't compelling, so I'm waiting for the next action scene to wake me up. A particular lowlight is the cameo of Keith Richards as Jack's father, Captain Teague, which is a teeth-grindingly self-indulgent in-joke about how Depp based his performance on Richards. You must be wondering, what does Richards actually do in his cameo? He reads the pirate code, which determines that they need to elect a pirate king before going to war. You know, something that could have been done without a pointless cameo. Glad to see he puts him to good use.
Sea turtles, mate.
Yes, keep referencing the original film and how we'd much rather be watching that film instead. So the pirates vote on who will be king and Jack defies convention by voting for Elizabeth rather than himself, making her king. That's right, Keira sodding Knightley is king of the pirates. She couldn't be queen of an all-girls school. With both armies emerging to face each other, the leaders of the two sides have a Sergio Leone-style meeting prior to battle, and why yes, they do a side swap. Will is exchanged for Jack upon discovery of Jack's deception. By this point I'm way past caring who is on what side.
You murdered my father.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
He chose his own fate.
And you have chosen yours. We will fight. And you will die.
Not Keira Knightley! I'm quaking in my little pirate boots! It turns out that all of Jack's deceptions have been a plot to get aboard the Dutchman so he can stab the heart. Oh, and I hope you like the multiple Jacks and the bloody peanut gag because there is yet another version of Jack on board the Flying Dutchman. Jack isn't in the locker anymore, so why is there a version of him on the ship? Is he imagining this one too?
Nobody move!
Drop me brain.
What is the explanation for this nonsense? Meanwhile, Calypso is freed from her human bonds, which means she grows to enormous size before disintegrating into crabs. I wonder how much effort was put into this CGI sequence that in the grand scheme of things is utterly pointless. It's all sound and fury signifying nothing. And what does Calypso actually do once unleashed? It creates a maelstrom. So basically we've had 2 hours of build up to a weather effect. What a payoff. It's now up to Keira Knightley to deliver, oh no, a stirring speech to her troops.
You will listen to me.
Listen! The brethren will still be looking here to us, to the Black Pearl to lead. And what will they see? They will see free men and freedom!
Would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
Spot the difference.
Gentlemen, hoist the colours.
For we shall be the greatest group of Girl Scouts who have ever lived. Huzzahs! Jesus, this shows, if you excuse the pun, just how utterly out of her depth Keira Knightley is with this whole pirate king thing. She simply does not have the voice or the presence to carry a speech like this off. She's drowning. Also, Elizabeth's speech seems to imply that freedom and piracy are the same. They may be Disneyfied scallywags, but they're still scallywags. I certainly wouldn't compare freedom to a bunch of lying, pillaging, raping...
wobbly-legged, rum-soaked pirates!
We have a favourable wind, sir. And so we do. Signal Jones to give no quarter.
Oh, I'm ever so posh and evil! So the Flying Dutchman is called into battle with the Black Pearl. After a solid hour of people talking each other into submission, some action occurs. Huzzah! Jack escapes the Dutchman's brig and encounters those incompetent guards from the first movie.
Admirable though it may be, why are you here when you could be elsewhere?
Someone has to stay and guard the chest.
There's no question. There has been a breakdown in military discipline aboard this vessel.
I blame the fish people.
Oh, so fish people automatically aren't as disciplined as non-fish people?
Seems contributory, is all I'm suggesting.
It was funny the first time, so let's do the exact same joke again. Jack steals the chest whilst Jones sucks off Mercer's face, taking back the key. Naturally, the two are drawn into battle over who gets the heart. Back on the Pearl...
Elizabeth, will you marry me?
I don't think now's the best time!
Honey, could this wait until after the battle with the giant squid people that are trying to kill us?
Barbosa! Marry us!
I'm a little busy at the moment!
Why Barbosa? You're the perfect priest! I mean, when you were trying to kill us 2 movies ago, we were all saying how much we wanted you at our wedding. I don't get how much of a romantic you are. This is total unmitigated bollocks. No one would ever do this in the midst of a giant battle to the death because there are slightly more pressing matters at hand. Not to mention that it clearly signifies that something very bad is going to happen to them because something so contrived wouldn't happen otherwise. More fighting occurs and Jack and Jones drop the chest and key as Will makes his way on board the Dutchman as well as Elizabeth.
Mister, did you forget? I'm a heartless wretch.
Oh, that's smart, stabbing the guy without a heart through the chest. That's really gonna kill him, isn't it, dumbass? Jack unlocks the chest and holds the heart at blade point. Why don't you just stab it? It makes you immortal and prevents this from happening. To be fair, he deserves that for being a traitorous little shit. And Orlando Bloom. Will's mortal wound wakes Bootstrap from his insanity and he turns on Jones, giving enough time for Will to stab the heart with Jack's help. So Jones dies and the Dutchman is sucked into the maelstrom.
Hold on!
Quick! The undead monkey must live! Of sorts. But despite the Flying Dutchman, there is still the Endeavour.
It's nothing personal, Jack. It's just good business.
He's starting to sound like the producers. But then the Dutchman rises out of the depths with Will as its new captain. Both ships open fire on the Endeavour. I do admit the visual of Beckett walking down the ship as it breaks apart around him is a truly breathtaking image, and one that really deserved a much better film than this. Because the British Navy are a bunch of pussies, they all turn around once the flagship has been destroyed, meaning that all the pirates and naval ships did in the finale was sit around pointlessly. Hooray! We did absolutely nothing! Being captain of the Dutchman, Will now has to ferry souls and can only come ashore once every 10 years. So Elizabeth says her goodbyes and goes with Will to take advantage of that one day by having sex. Off screen, of course, there are kids present. Also, maybe I'm overthinking this, but isn't this kind of necrophilia? I mean, Will is dead, technically speaking. He then gives her his heart. Well, at least it was more romantic than in £7. Ugh. Meanwhile, Jack is in Tortuga with a happy slapping slappers when he discovers that Barbosa has stolen the Black Pearl again.
Ladies, will you please shut it? Yes, I lied to you. No, I don't love you. Of course it makes you look fat. I've never been to Brussels, and all of this pales to utter insignificance in light of the fact that my ship is once again gone. Savvy?
Okay, it was amusing the first time, but you've done it in all 3 movies now. The joke has lost its luster. Barbossa is planning to go to the Fountain of Youth when he discovers that Jack has torn out the middle section of the map for himself. Yes, even at this point they threatened another sequel, because Lord knows it can't get any worse. But not even the credits mean the very end, because as a post-credits gag, we pick up 10 years later, with Elizabeth and Will's son waiting for him at the shore. His return is signalled with a green flash. And boy does this become confusing. According to the writers, this was meant to signal his return to the land of the living and that he was relieved of his duties on the Dutchman. Although you probably should have told that to the makers of the DVD, as in the FAQ booklet, and you know you did a good job when you have to include an FAQ booklet for your movie, says, and I quote, "Every 10 years, Will may step on land for one day. He is bound to the Dutchman forever." There was dialogue about this in a scene between Tia Dharma and Davy Jones, but what happens when two lovers are reunited 10 years later is never really made clear. Personally, I'm of the opinion that Will only comes to shore once every 10 years, because otherwise, who's controlling the bloody Dutchman? But the fact that this plot point confused so many viewers shows just how complex and contradictory the pirates' mythology had become. In fact, let's take a look at the other questions in this booklet. What does the future hold for Will and Elizabeth? Now that he's captain of the Flying Dutchman, is she going to wait for him? True love never dies, but their story is yet to be told. Dipshits, watch to the end of the credits, there's your answer. Barbossa was Captain Jack's first mate, so how can he be a pirate lord? At some time in the past, the pirate lord of the Caspian Sea passed his piece of 8 to Barbossa. That is a story yet to be told. Or essentially, we made up a load of bullshit to fill in a plot hole. Did Tia Dharma bring Barbossa back from the dead because he was a pirate lord? Yes. Calypso resurrected Barbossa and tricked him to retrieve Jack Sparrow from Davy Jones's locker and summon a meeting of the Brethren. Barbossa was tricked? Really? He didn't seem very tricked to me. Why do half the answers here seem like made-up cobblers? Maybe you think I'm being a bit too harsh in the movie. So that's why I've decided to contact Welshy to counter-argue. Take it away, Welshy.
Your English and you suck.
I said counter-argue, not a trolling comment.
Fine. Hello and welcome to Bad Movie. Oh, f*** it, I'm not doing that. So here's my counter for Pirates 3. Now before I get roasted for liking this movie, I want to point out that I know the film isn't perfect, but then no film is. Is it a great film? No. Is it a bad film? For me, no. It's fun, it's a romp, and more importantly, it's the conclusion of a trilogy. Therefore, things have to get dark to show how serious the situation is. Case to point, the opening showing men and women being hung is a chance to show the control the East India Trading Company now has. The hanging of the child is used to show that no one is spared, and I like it because it shows how ruthless these people are. In fact, I remember a collected gasp going around the theatre when the boy appeared. And as sick as it sounds, I kinda like it. I'm one of those people who always hates it in films when the kids always manage to escape the danger. Now the main problem I had with the Pirates franchise as a whole was that the whole thing is viewed from Elizabeth's point of view. She's the first character we see at the start of every film, and she's the last character we see at the end of the series. And this wouldn't be such a bad thing if her character was interesting. But the reason the whole thing became a franchise is because of Johnny Depp and his portrayal of Jack Sparrow. As the franchise continues, you can almost see the writers trying to think of new ways to keep Elizabeth involved, as they see the whole thing as her story. But nobody wants to see her, or even Will. They want to see the entertaining characters like Jack Sparrow and Barbossa. But the problem with the Jack Sparrow character is that he's a reactive character, which is to say he needs things going on around him to make him effective and entertaining. And that's one of the reasons he worked in Pirates 1. He literally just wandered into a romance movie which would have been dull, boring and predictable, and ended up stealing the whole damn show. And one of the complaints film brains and a lot of people seem to have is that all the characters in Pirates 3 keep switching sides. Well, yeah, they're pirates. It's been established since the first film that Jack Sparrow is on his own side and he'll switch sides at a moment's notice if he thinks he'll be able to get a better deal out of it. By the third film, every character is a pirate, so they'll all stick it to the other if they think they can get a better deal out of it. Pirates 2 even made a joke about this with the cliff climbing scene.
Oh dear.
Which brings me to Will. Now the Will in this film is a different character from the first film. He's older, he's scarred, he's a darker character. He started down the road to piracy at the end of the first film when he rescued Jack. Since then he's been betrayed again by Jack Sparrow, he's seen his fiancée kiss Jack Sparrow, and then he's discovered his father is trapped on a ship that will eventually consume him. He's a desperate man, and desperate men will do desperate things. He even admits this in a small scene with Jack about halfway through the film.
I'm losing her, Jack. Every step I make for my father is a step away from Elizabeth.
And he admits he can't trust Elizabeth.
If you make your choices alone, how can I trust you?
As the character, he generally does have the darkest moments in the film, and so in a way it makes sense for him to be the one to die at the hands of Davy Jones. And finally, Elizabeth. Now, I do like Keira Knightley as an actress, but she bugged the hell out of me in Pirates 2. She bugged the hell out of me in Pirates 3. She's not interesting, she's annoying, and completely out of her depth in this film. And I just wish that one of the pirates had shot her off the bow when she was giving her speech. Actually.
No, they will see free men! And freedom! And what the enemy will see is the flash of our cannons! They will hear the ring of our swords, and they will know what we can do!
Much better. Now, the only other point I want to bring up is the climactic battle.
And what does Calypso actually do once unleashed? It creates a maelstrom! So basically we've had 2 hours of build-up to a weather effect. What a payoff!
Now, I disagree with Matt here for one simple reason. Originally, Calypso was going to turn her wrath on the pirate lords, because they imprisoned her.
The last thing they will learn in this life is how cruel I can be.
The pivotal moment is that as she's being freed, Will informs her that it was Davy Jones who betrayed her.
Name him!
Davy Jones.
And this changes her original intent. I always saw her creating the Maelstrom as a reason to take away advantages. She doesn't take sides. She gives both ships favourable winds.
The wind's on our side, boys!
We have a favourable wind, sir.
And then lets them fight to the end. And it's at this point for me that you see who's fighting on whose side. And why do Elizabeth and Will marry on the Pearl? I always found it cheesy. Why did they ask Barbossa to marry them? He's the captain, he has the right. Just think back to Pirates 2 when Jack told Elizabeth he had that power.
And being captain of a ship, I could in fact, before me, marry Harsh, right on this deck. Right now.
In fact, this whole section brings back the fun of the first film. And yeah, while it is incredibly cheesy, thanks mainly to the performances of Jeffrey Rush, who's clearly having a ball, and Orlando Bloom, it works because they're not taking it seriously. It's also nice to have a bit of a fun moment before the film takes a really dark turn. When I saw this sequence in the theatre, the whole audience was totally into it. They were cheering, they were clapping, they were laughing. In a film with squid monsters, undead monkeys, and walking sea creatures, a wedding aboard a storm-covered ship isn't exactly that much of a stretch. So, Pirates 3. I love it. It's not rum, but it'll do.
Thank you, Welshy, that was very stimulating. Allow me to retort. I hate this movie. The movie is far too long at a shade under 3 hours. Bear in mind this and Dead Man's Chest are one whole story. That means we have one big 5-hour pirate movie. And what have we actually accomplished in that time besides a load of corpses? At the end of Curse, everyone is happy, Will and Elizabeth included, and everything is neatly resolved. The sequels have now bungled this ending by killing off half the cast, and Will and Elizabeth can't see each other for 10 years. What a miserable conclusion to a light-hearted adventure series. It's slow to the point of painfully boring, it's incredibly self-indulgent, and the dark tone makes it feel inappropriate for the young kids it's intended for. The characters just spend ages talking about the plot and betraying each other, which makes it hard to be sympathetic for any of them. These constant turns and underdeveloped mythology make At World's End a confused and frustrating experience. Next summer sees the release of the 4th instalment, On Stranger Tides. Gore Verbinski, who directed the previous 3 movies, has been replaced by Rob Marshall, who previously directed Chicago. Rush and Depp are back, Keira and Orlando are thankfully not, and Penelope Cruz is in. Whether this will take the series back to basics remains to be seen. Until then, drink up me arties, yo ho!